Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Factorio Railworld, where we're on our way back to the main base from the new outpost of Cape Kerbal. We were just going to be dropping off some wood and picking up various supplies, but the 0.13 update has arrived in the meantime, so I'll spend the episode having some fun with some of the new stuff. I've already discussed it in quite a few videos. I've had a Towns episode and the update overview, live streams and stuff, so I'll probably just link that in the description rather than try and explain everything over again for those who've already heard it a bunch of times. But as you can see, the trains have changed, and the train controls have changed, and just a bunch of new stuff has come along which will help us to improve the way the trains operate in Railworld. The good thing about this is that there aren't many sort of bad changes for us. In Towns, there were a couple of problems because I have a lot of vertical train stations. Because the length of the trains had changed, it meant that stations didn't line up properly anymore, and I had to mess about with a lot of stuff to make it work. But in Railworld, everything's horizontal, so it's fine. There's pretty much no change. There's just a couple of places where I need to do a small amount of tweaking, and it's all pretty much fine. The midpoint outpost does have vertical stations, so we'll have to make sure to go over there and sort that out. But other than that, I don't think anything will go wrong if we just leave everything as it is. Now, I've just crafted a blueprint book. This is something I haven't really covered in my other stuff yet, because I only really use blueprints in Railworld at the moment anyway. So it's a new book for storing blueprints. It's fantastic. I can now just put all the blueprints I have into that book. If I hold down Shift and scroll, I can select any of the blueprints inside that book as the active blueprint that book will work as. It's really convenient. So I don't have to worry about my inventory anymore. I was always I always avoided making blueprints because it would take up a bunch of space that I didn't really have much of in my inventory. Now I can just store them all in one place, and adding one more will never take up any more space, unless I have 30 of them, at which point I can probably cut down, because a bunch of them are probably pointless. And also the inventory capacity has been increased anyway. We've got 3 new rows of it from the armour that I'm wearing. Each of the power armours gives you 1 extra row of inventory space, which is fantastic, because as you progress through the game, you end up with more and more random stuff cluttering up your inventory, and particularly in my case, I'm not good at sort of clearing it out. I'm always like, oh, but I might need that in 5 minutes, or I might need this, so I never actually get rid of anything. Now, it doesn't matter anymore, at least so much. Now I can just carry, a full, 2 wooden chests worth of copper ore, and just dump it into a train without having to go on a bunch of trips for it, which is nice. So we've come over to the Mega Copper Outpost. It was just a sort of stop on the way to the midpoint, but I spotted there were a couple of bits and bobs to sort out. Also, we're doing all the research, just sort of blasting through it. A bunch of new signs to do, all quite big ones actually. That'll take quite a bit of time to get through, which is nice. The more research there is, the better for the game, because it's always annoying when the research runs out just as you're really getting into the swing of things with your factory building. And with each new update, a bunch of new research comes along and makes that part of the game a little bit longer, which is always nice. And there's just a bunch of stuff that you can that you don't need urgently, so it's fine to just be able to upgrade all your stuff a little bit more. So now we can upgrade the power of flamethrowers, as well as having a lot more flamethrower technology available, as well as the power of grenades and things like that. There's also a lot more research in terms of inserter capacities, which I will get round to. But at the moment, we are sorting out the schedules for all the trains that come to the Mega Copper Outpost. Because a problem we've had with Mega Copper for a while is that there's a lot of traffic jams, a lot of cases of one train holding up multiple other ones and just bringing everything to a halt in the area. And that was why I was trying to mine through the middle of the deposit, so that I could get a bit more room to have a double line railway and stuff like that. And also make a little bit more space for the actual station, so that I can have waiting areas and multiple loading areas to park in, so that the trains wouldn't hold each other up so much. But now it's not so much of an issue, because what I did was I set all the trains to either set off after 30 or 20 seconds. I just kept the times as what they were before, or if the train is full, because that is now a condition you can do. You can set off a train if it's full, if it's empty, if nothing's happening to it, if certain circuit conditions are met. There's just a bunch of new ways that you can tell trains to set off, and you can set and or conditions. So basically I've made it so either they wait the usual amount of time, or if they're already full, they'll leave as soon as that's the case. So that means that the trains spend a lot less time in the station now. More importantly, the time that they're not spending there was time they would have been wasting there, because they were already fully loaded and there was no point hanging around. And it'll still work even if there's a bunch more copper demand, because at the moment there's barely any, so the trains are just parking up. Some of them are just parking up and immediately leaving again, because they've literally used no more copper. But other ones are taking like 2 seconds and then leaving. And yeah, so even if the copper demand increases, it'll still work because the trains will just leave as soon as they're loaded, or they'll just leave after the normal amount of time that I've allotted anyway. But it's unlikely that they will get to 20 or 30 seconds and still not be fully loaded because of the new inserters. But at the moment, we're working on the midpoint trying to fix things up. I've messed things up a little bit. I parked the train I was in where the mega train usually goes, and it started being loaded with random stuff, which caused a bit of trouble. Coal got loaded into one of the cargo wagons, and rails got loaded into one of the other ones, which is a little bit messy. So I tried to clear that up and stop them loading any more stuff into it. But yeah, that station is basically ruined. The mega train loading station will need to be completely redesigned. In fact, it'll probably need to be moved because there's now no longer enough room for it. Like I've had to extend this small station here by 2 rails, and this was only for one train with 2 cargo wagons, because the mega train is 2 engines and 10 wagons, so it is extended by a stupid amount relative to what it used to be. So it'll take a lot of messing about to make it possible for the mega train to properly service itself and this station and this outpost at the station. I'll basically have to tear it down and build it on the other side of the tracks, because with this extending, there's not enough room anyway, as well as the fact that the station needs to extend by quite a bit. It might even, like, I don't know exactly how long it will be, really. I guess it's something like 1 rail per cargo wagon or something like that, maybe as much as that. Close to it anyway. So yeah, that's ruined, and we might as well just start deconstructing the thing now. I just leave it for the moment because I'm focusing on sorting out the unloading for the midpoint delivering trains. But yeah, the mega train will not be parking here for quite a while. I mean, I guess I'll bring it in to actually work out where to put the new loading and unloading stuff, but it doesn't matter too much because the midpoint doesn't really do that much nowadays. It was like a stopping off point for like building the lake railway around the rest of the lake, and that's done now. So I mean, it could be used to service Cape Kerbal, but it's not hugely important because the main base is not that much further away from Cape Kerbal than the midpoint is. I mean, the midpoint isn't quite in the middle. I sort of knew this when I built it, but I know that it's pretty close, and of course that means that any other outpost is likely to be nearer to the main base anyway. So yeah, I'm just messing about with some of the supplies here. I noticed that it could do with resupplying with advanced circuits and a couple of things like that. So I try unloading them, but the bots keep delivering them back to me, so I just put them directly into the assemblers that I know need them. Just try and get a bit of destroyer drone production in case we ever have to run back here and resupply on destroyers. We've got plenty back home, but sometimes we might have some sort of emergency we need to respond to quickly. And we're getting random achievements as we're going through the episode. We just got an achievement for making something like 20,000 iron ore in an hour, and considering we're only 24 minutes into the hour, that is a good sign that we're doing a fair bit of production, more like 50,000 or whatever. I don't know if that was the actual number. I didn't manage to catch it in time, but we'll just be earning random ones as we go through. The moment I started up the save, we earned the get a train path that is 1,000 tiles long. Because of course the trains have stupidly long journeys in Railworld, and I wouldn't be surprised if like the Lake Railway is more like 10,000 long, because I'm not good at sort of telling exactly like how long it is, but I've like seen how much it takes to get the 1,000 tiles achievement in other saves, and it's not that much relative to what I've been building in Railworld. So yeah, a little bit overkill there. It'd be nice if there was another achievement, like 100,000 tile one, just to make things pretty crazy. I mean, you could sort of cheat with that, because you can set it so that a train can only go one way around a track, and then you have to make it go to a station that's just behind it, so it has to loop around the whole thing. So you could cheat and get that sort of thing with a much shorter track. I think it depends on how it like works out the path. If it's like a full schedule, then that'll be fine. If it's like the how long the train is going from one station to the next, then not so much. You would have to still build a fairly long railway for that. But we brought our train back now. It's loaded with a bunch of random copper ore, so we parked it up in the copper unloading station, and as you can see, I've messed things up quite a bit. What I did was I set it to stick there for a full minute, so it could just steadily unload things, and it would just alternate between that and one of the stations in the south section, just so it didn't clog things forever. It would just sit there for a while and then occasionally cycle out so that things could continue on. But a minute seems a bit too much when I ended up with 10 trains all sat there not doing anything, waiting for that to get out of the way. So I changed it to 30 seconds, and I also mess about with some signals to make it so that the trains can park up in a slightly more compact way. I'm not sure if I did it then or later on, but I set it as well, I think, to leave the station as soon as it's empty as well, which means that once it's actually finished unloading, it'll not hang around in that station anymore. It'll still hop over there because I can't stop it from... I can't remove it from the timetable using a circuit condition, but I can make it so that it, if it arrives and finds that it's empty, it will immediately leave again and not take up so much time anymore. So anyway, we're back in the main base now, and I'm just going to do a couple of things with assemblers and things like that. There's all sorts of random stuff, like the recipe for underground belts. Blue underground belts now requires lubricant, so I'll have to get that piped in. It now matches up with normal express belts and express splitters. It's all sort of been standardized, so now they use lubricant just the same as the other ones do, which means I need to pipe those over. And I also checked up on the signs. That's all running fine. There's plenty of supply in that sense. We're past the sort of the craziest days of the factory still. Like science is a fairly small task for it nowadays. After it did all the crazy module manufacturing and stuff it used to do, doing research is easy. And shouldn't be any sort of problem for it. But you can see that I'm replacing some of these inserters here. I've replaced... well, I need to talk about all the different colours and stuff, because it's all been sort of messed about a bit. We've lost the smart inserter, and it's been replaced by the filter inserter, which is exactly the same in recipe and practically in function. I think there's a couple of slight differences. And it's purple, using the filter inserter texture from many years ago. We're talking like... before I played Factorio, and I've been playing Factorio for a very long time, relative to the majority of people. And it's even before I played. I think it was removed very early because it didn't make sense or something. But the texture is now returned, but we haven't lost the smart inserter texture. It has been moved to the stack inserter. The purpose of that being to basically serve the function of like a fully upgraded fast insert. Well, not even that really, but basically... the way that it works is the stack inserter can transport multiple items at once, from not just from container to container, but also from container to belt, belt to container, belt to belt, so on and so forth. Basically, whenever it grabs any items from anywhere, it grabs multiple of them. There's various stages to the upgrading. At the moment, I'm not sure exactly what the numbers are. It's something like 8, maybe. But when it's fully upgraded, it can transport 12 items in one go, which is pretty crazy. So that is not quadruple, it is triple what you used to be able to do with fast inserters, and that was just when transporting between storage vessels. So that's fantastic news for throughput. It's now really easy to get high throughput on pretty much anything, particularly trains, because you can now unload at triple the previous speed. And not just that, you can unload onto the belts at triple the previous speed, which means that buffer chests aren't so important anymore, but I am going to keep them because they do still make a bit of sense. So here I'm setting up production of these new inserters because we need crazy amounts of them really to just replace half the fast inserters in the factory, and so I just plonked down an assembler in whatever gap I can find that has access to the right materials, because it uses advanced circuits, which means it's a little bit awkward to just produce on the fly. Also, it takes huge amounts of normal circuits and gears, so it just is like a little bit heavy on the materials. Like I can only craft 20 of them at once, and the last few are made by like manually crafting gears and circuits and stuff. So it's just easier to request like 50 of them and have an assembler in the factory that produces them. And it just uses upgraded fast inserters. And there are also stack filter inserters, basically combining the functionality of smart inserters with that of stack inserters, and they are white, and they function as you would expect. You can set filters, logistic conditions, circuit conditions, and you can transport multiple items in one go. So yeah, at the moment, as the research stands, I can transport something like 8 items at once with a stack inserter. There's the train menu. I can see the, I think, 37 trains I have operating in Railworld, or maybe is it? No, I think it's 27 actually, or 26 or something like that. But yeah, I never knew how many trains I had. It was like impossible to keep track. There were just so many going around the place. Now I can just quickly look at the menu and find out the ridiculous number of trains that I have operating, which is quite cool. And also see exactly where all of them are, see what all their schedules are, and even change their schedules remotely, which is fantastic. It's funny, this update has invalidated a bunch of mods. There's just a bunch of stuff that was like people modded in to make things more convenient with trains, and now all of that has been implemented and more to make everything just so much more convenient with them. It's brilliant, really. I can now operate all my trains wherever I am. The only thing you can't do remotely is load them with coal, and I already have that sorted anyway. And I could always just modify their timetables to send them to somewhere that needs coal. Not needs coal, that has coal, and so on. So yeah, as well as the stack inserters being introduced, the functionality of normal inserters has been changed in terms of transporting, because of course the inserter stack size bonus previously allowed all kinds of inserters to transport up to 4 items at once from one container to another. It's now been changed so that the absolute upper limit is 3 items, and it takes a lot more research to get to it. But it now applies to everything, not just to chests. So yeah, the throughput is just so much easier now. So many things can, all the inserters are better than they used to be at moving items. It has caused some trouble because now that everything moves more than 1 item at once, it messes up some people's careful balances of particular items and things like that. That's something that'll have to be looked into. But you can now control belts. You can now make them stop using circuit conditions, and so you can use them to only allow through 1 item at once and stuff like that. So there are certain ways of fixing these sorts of problems by adding belts and stuff into the mix. There's so many more circuit conditions now to use to just make factories do whatever you want with them in terms of just fine control and setting things off at particular times and stuff, using all sorts of different queues for things. But anyway, we've got a bunch of our unloading now and train loading set up with the stack inserters. It's not particularly important for us at the moment because the factory's quite quiet, but once we get Cape Kerbal operational, we'll have a lot more production going on just everywhere, which should benefit, I think, from having the stack inserters. But anyway, what I'm also setting up is the landfill production. Seems like a good idea to get a bunch of landfill being produced. We have loads of stone being delivered into the main base and not that much being done with it, so we don't have to worry about using it all up. It takes 20 stone to make a single square of landfill, which will then be a single tile of filled land. So it's definitely expensive to tile over any water, but it's definitely going to be a good idea for us to get hold of some, because we can use it to venture into the lake, find out what is at the centre. I mean, it's probably just water, but you got to be sure there might be an island. There definitely are some islands in it that we can't access from the shore, but now we can. We can landfill our way over to them and explore, and then kill all the biters in them, because of course that's all there really is there. There's probably some ores and stuff, but ultimately we want to get in there to kill the biters. But yeah, so speaking of the biters, I'm a little bit worried about them. They've got a lot more aggressive, and they no longer care about where they colonize. They used to not colonize areas where there were structures built, so people would build victory poles where they just plonk down a single structure of some kind, like a power pole, and it would discourage biters from ever colonizing there. That's now completely changed. They are still somewhat discouraged by you building structures, but you can never stop them entirely, and they care a lot less. You have to build a full-scale factory to scare biters off any degree from colonizing places, which is going to be interesting. They're now colonizing a whole lot more, and already they're advancing in. Within seconds of the episode starting, they attacked one of the radar outposts next to the Megacopper base, so that's a little bit scary. I think they're going to continue pushing in. Bases are already springing up well inside radar range. I'm going to have to be dealing with them a lot more. Luckily, we have flamethrower ammo to help us with that. I'm now setting that up in the oil outpost. And yeah, I'm going to start using this instead of shotguns, I think. I think the flamethrower is more effective because you just need to hit everything once and it all sets on fire and then will just burn. And you don't have to worry about it. Just run into the middle of a base, weather the hits with your power suit, and then just set everything on fire and then run away again, and you're good. And we'll probably see a fair bit of that next episode once I start pushing back these rapidly advancing biters. But yes, we've got the production pretty much set up. I just need to power it and get it belted over to our oil train so we can deliver it back to the main base, have it easily accessible, because I'm going to be using plenty of it in the coming episodes. One assembly should probably do, though the thing is we need a supply of iron, so I'll have to work that out. I'll probably get it brought in by train or something like that. For the moment I've just manually loaded it, and that'll keep us supplied for the moment. Now I have to work out how to actually maneuver through this complete mess of belts and pipes and rails and stuff. It's a little bit awkward trying to find a place where I can fit this in, but luckily there was one more spot available to load into the train. It used to be more, because you used to be able to load 7 spots on either side of the train, but it's now been changed to 6, with the trade-off being that you now have higher throughput and stuff like that, so it doesn't matter too much. But anyway, we'll make our way back to the middle of the base for the moment, and I shall say goodbye, thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.